The slap didn't even hurt that much. That's the part nobody tells you about. People imagine a slap across the face as this cinematic, earth-shattering moment, the kind of thing that sends you stumbling backward, vision going white, ears ringing. They picture tears and screaming and drama. What actually happened was quieter than that, and somehow worse. My mother's palm connected with my left cheek at 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Day in the dining room of the house I had been financially propping up for 3 years, in front of my father, my sister, and my Aunt Diane, who immediately became very interested in the inside of her purse. There was a sharp crack of sound. My head turned slightly from the impact. My sister froze with the ribbon of a designer bag in one hand and the box of a brand new iPhone in the other. And then the room went completely silent. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my hand to my cheek. I just stood there for a moment, 2 seconds, maybe 3, and I looked at my mother's face, not with rage, not with tears. I looked at her the way you look at something you've been staring at for years and are finally seeing clearly. Then I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. I walked to the front door. I opened it. I stepped out into the cold December air. Nobody called after me. Not one voice. Not one footstep behind me. Just the click of the door, the sound of my own breathing, and the distant neighbor's Christmas lights buzzing faintly in the dark. I sat in my car in the driveway, and I opened my phone. You need to understand who I was before that moment, because this story doesn't make sense without it. My name is Marcus. I'm 26 years old, and I am, or was, a software developer for a mid-sized tech company in Atlanta. I graduated early. I got a job fast. I was, by most metrics, the success story of my family. First in my immediate family to finish a 4-year degree. First to have a salary with benefits and a 401k and a name on a real lease for a real apartment. I chose myself. My family, my parents, and my younger sister Brianna lived 40 minutes away in the house I grew up in. A nice house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard. My dad, Raymond, worked part-time at a hardware store after his knee surgery 2 years ago, put him out of his previous job. My mom, Cheryl, worked administrative hours at a dental office, enough to keep benefits, not enough to materially contribute to the household. Brianna was 22, took a few community college classes, and worked about 12 hours a week at a clothing boutique she mostly described as networking. I want to be fair to them because I think fairness is important even when people don't deserve it. They weren't evil people. They weren't monsters. My childhood, for the most part, was fine, normal, the kind of quiet suburban upbringing where nothing dramatic happens, and you think that means everything is okay. But somewhere around the time I got my first real paycheck, a shift happened. So slow I barely noticed. So gradual I told myself it was just family, that this was normal, that this is what you do when you're the one who made it. It started with the phone plan. I had 3 lines. Mine, a friend's who moved out, and a spare. My mom asked if she could hop on to save money. Sure. Then Brianna. Then my dad. 4 lines. I was paying about $180 a month for all of them, and I told myself it was fine because family. Then the Netflix. They kept getting locked out of their shared account, so I just added them to mine. Then Hulu came up at Thanksgiving one year. They wanted it for the live TV package. And I said, sure, it's only $20-something a month. Amazon Prime. The grocery delivery was so convenient for my mom's schedule, she said. Just add them to the household. Sure. Spotify family plan. My dad's golf handicap app. Some premium subscription thing that cost $19.99 a month that he mentioned once while I was half asleep on the couch, and I must have said yes without fully processing it. The car insurance was the one I agreed to most consciously because it made financial sense on paper. Adding 2 cars to my policy kept their rates from going through the roof after my dad got a minor fender bender. I ran the numbers. It was cheaper for everyone. I said yes. And then there was the credit card. I had opened a rewards card with a high limit when I first started making real money. I added my mom as an authorized user because she'd had her card declined at the pharmacy once and I'd felt terrible about it. The plan was emergencies only. She had the card for emergencies. Do you see where this is going? I didn't. Not for a long time. The gifts showed up in stages. That's how I know this Christmas wasn't spontaneous. Brianna's iPhone 15 Pro Max. Retail. $199. She was currently on my phone plan with unlimited data. The designer bag. A brand my mother had mentioned once, casually, in August. The way people mention things they believe they will eventually have. I'd looked up the price out of vague curiosity and put it out of my mind. Price. $4,800. Marked down from $5,400 at a sale. The diamond earrings. Small, tasteful, still diamonds. The kind of thing that comes in a velvet box inside a white bag with ribbon handles. My sister held them up to the light while my parents beamed. I sat across the table with my hands in my lap. We had agreed, all of us, in a group chat in November, no gifts this year. The message was still there. I could scroll to it right now. My dad had suggested it. My mom had seconded it with a heart emoji. Brianna had sent a thumbs up. I had said, sounds good to me. Relief washing over me because the holidays were already financially strained, and I was quietly trying to build my savings back up after a few months of above-average spending I hadn't fully examined yet. I had nothing for anyone because we agreed. The dinner went on. The unwrapping went on. My sister narrated every gift like she was a beauty influencer, doing an unboxing relaxing video. Did you see how it catches the light? Oh my God, Mom, this is exactly what I wanted. And my parents exchanged glances of pure parental satisfaction. At some point, I don't even fully remember the exact sequence of words, only the feeling that I had been standing outside in the cold for a very long time and finally just said so. I asked the question, "What about me?" 4 words, a genuine human question. I wasn't accusatory. My voice didn't shake. I just looked at the pile of gift bags and tissue paper and velvet boxes and brand new electronics, and I said, "What about me?" My mother's hand hit my face before I even finished the sentence. Crack. Silence. I looked at her. She looked at me. And in her eyes, I saw something that settled something in my chest permanently. Not rage, not surprise, but a kind of confirmation. She wasn't horrified by what she'd done. She was irritated that I'd asked. I picked up my coat. I walked out. I sat in my car in the driveway for approximately 11 minutes. I know the time because I have a habit of noting timestamps. It's a developer thing or maybe just a me thing. And when I pulled out my phone, the clock read 6:53 p.m. By 7:04 p.m., I had made every cancellation that could be made from a phone. I want to describe the feeling because it's important. People assume I was shaking, rage crying, hands trembling over the screen. That's not what happened. I was calm, completely, almost eerily calm. My face still stung faintly where I'd been hit, the way skin does after impact. Not pain exactly, more like warmth. And my mind was very, very clear. I opened the carrier app first, navigated to account management, pulled up the lines. My sister's line, remove, confirm. My dad's line, remove, confirm. My mom's line, remove, confirm. 3 lines, gone in under 2 minutes, effective immediately. Netflix. I opened the app, went to account settings, removed all additional profiles, then canceled the subscription outright, effective at the end of the billing cycle, but they'd be logged out by morning. Hulu, same process, canceled. Amazon Prime, removed household members, then canceled Prime itself. I could restart it later if I wanted. The free trial had long since expired anyway. Spotify, removed family members from the plan, downgraded to individual. The golf app. I actually almost felt bad about this one for a fraction of a second, and then I remembered that my father had watched his wife slap me across the face and turned back to his plate. I canceled it without hesitation. The car insurance took a phone call. I'd known that going in. I dialed the 24-hour customer line, gave my policy number, and told the representative I needed to remove all additional drivers except myself. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Removing drivers mid-policy will affect their coverage immediately." "Very sure," I said. She processed it. She read back the confirmation number. I thanked her. Then the credit card. I opened the last 3 months of statements. I'd told myself I didn't need to look too closely. Family used it for emergencies, I'd said, and I believed it, mostly because believing it was easier than the alternative. Month of October, $340 in what appeared to be salon charges. $89 at a restaurant I didn't recognize. $210 at a clothing store. Month of November, $612 at a different clothing store. $45 at a nail salon. $180 in what was listed as retail accessories. Month of December, $4,147. I stared at that number for a long moment. The bag, the $4,800 bag, the one my sister was currently photographing from multiple angles inside the house, paid for with my credit card, the one for emergencies. I called the number on the back of the card. "I need to report my card as lost," I said, "and have a new one issued to my address only." The representative was patient, professional. She confirmed the address on file, my apartment, not my parents' house, because I am not stupid enough to have ever changed that. She canceled the card, ordered the replacement, and confirmed that the authorized user, my mother, would no longer have access. "The existing card will be deactivated within the hour," she said. "Thank you," I said. I put the phone in my lap. I looked at the front of the house, the warm light in the windows, the faint sound of what might have been my sister laughing. Then I started the car and drove to the Marriott 8 minutes away. I checked in, got a room on the 4th floor, ordered a club sandwich and a Coke from room service, and watched a movie I'd been meaning to see for 2 months. I showered. I set the thermostat to exactly the temperature I like. I got into bed with clean sheets that smelled faintly of industrial detergent, which is honestly my favorite smell in the world when I'm wrung out. I slept from 10:30 p.m. to 7:18 a.m. without interruption. I cannot remember the last time I slept that well. My phone was face down on the nightstand. I had turned the ringer off, but I knew, in the calm, practical part of my brain that had been running the numbers for 2 minutes at 6:53 p.m. in a cold driveway, I knew what the morning would look like. 7:43 a.m. I picked up the phone. "Mom, the TV isn't working." 7:44 a.m. "Dad, hey son, the insurance app is saying something is wrong with our policy." 7:44 a.m. 30 seconds later. "Brianna, my phone says I'm not on the plan anymore." I read all 3. I set the phone face down. I made coffee from the little machine on the hotel dresser, the kind with the thin packets that never quite brew strong enough but are deeply satisfying anyway. And I sat by the window and watched Atlanta wake up on a cold December 26th morning. At 8:15, my dad called. Let it ring. At 8:17, my mom called. Let it ring. At 8:20, my sister called 3 times in rapid succession. Let it ring. Let it ring. Let it ring. At 8:31, my dad texted, "Son, I think there might have been some kind of mistake with the accounts. Can you give us a call when you get a chance? A mistake. 3 years of payments. A face full of my mother's palm in front of the entire family. My sister sitting inside a house I partially funded, holding a $4,800 bag charged to my card, and my father was texting me about a mistake. I typed one sentence back. No mistake, Dad. Merry Christmas. Sent. I set the phone down and finished my coffee. And then it buzzed again. Not a call, not a text from family. An email. From a name I hadn't expected. Derek Okafor. Subject line, we need to talk about the lease. My stomach dropped because I had completely forgotten. My name was on their apartment lease. Derek was Brianna's boyfriend of 2 years. A decent enough guy, or so I had thought. Quiet, polite, worked in logistics. They'd started dating right when he was getting on his feet after a rough patch, and when they decided to move in together 12 months ago, Brianna's credit score had been what real estate agents politely call a work in progress. Derek had asked me, not my parents, me, if I would co-sign the lease. He'd been professional about it. Sat down with me, showed me his income documentation, his employment history, said Brianna would be working to build her credit, and within a year they'd refinance without my name on it. I had said yes, because family. The lease ran through August, 8 months away. I opened the email with the specific kind of dread that lives in your throat rather than your stomach. Marcus, I'm going to assume you know about what happened last night with the phone plan. We woke up this morning and Brianna's phone doesn't work, which I understand given the circumstances. But I need to speak with you urgently about the lease. As a co-signer, you have certain obligations. I am not threatening you. I just think we need to talk about how this proceeds. Calm, measured, almost lawyery. I read it twice. Then I did something I should have done before co-signing any lease, which is call an actual lawyer. Her name was Patricia Osi Bonsu, and she was a tenant and contract attorney I found through a bar referral service on December 26th at 9:15 a.m. She agreed to a brief paid phone consultation at $150 for 30 minutes because the holidays, she explained, always generate a surprising number of urgent lease questions. Co-signing a lease means you're equally liable for the rent, she said, not unkindly. If they default, you're on the hook. I know that, I said. What I need to know is, can I get out of it, given that the circumstances of my relationship with these people have materially changed? Silence for a beat. Then, walk me through the current situation. I walked her through it. The payments, the card, the Christmas, the slap. Another pause. The assault is relevant, she said. Not to the lease directly, a civil matter, a different track, but it affects the broader picture of what you're dealing with here. She explained my options. I could petition the landlord to remove me as a co-signer, which required landlord consent, and potentially Derek qualifying on his own income, which, depending on his numbers, he might now be able to do since he'd had a year to build his file. I could document the physical altercation and consult with a family law or civil attorney about the assault. I could, in the interim, ensure that my financial exposure was limited by keeping close watch on whether payments were being made. My strong advice, she said, is to communicate in writing only from this point forward. No phone calls you don't record, everything by email or text. That's my plan, I said. Good. A pause. I'm sorry this happened to you, especially on Christmas. Thank you, I said. I appreciate that. I sat with the phone in my hand after I hung up, and I thought about how that one sentence, I'm sorry this happened to you, was the first time in 24 hours anyone had said anything even adjacent to that. I emailed Derek back from the hotel. Hi, Derek. I'm aware of the situation, and I've spoken with a tenant attorney this morning. I'd like to address the lease situation properly and professionally. Can you provide your current income documentation? If you've been employed continuously over the past year, there's a reasonable path for me to request removal as co-signer and have the lease transition to you as sole lessee. I'd appreciate if we keep all communication in writing going forward. He replied within 15 minutes. He had, in fact, gotten a promotion in September. His annual income was now comfortably above what the landlord required for a solo lease. He was frankly relieved. I'll contact the property management today, he wrote. For what it's worth, I had nothing to do with what happened at Christmas. I wasn't there, and I think what they did was wrong. I appreciated that. I didn't say it out loud, but I appreciated it. My phone rang at 11:04 a.m., number I didn't recognize. Atlanta area code, I answered. Is this Marcus? Speaking. This is Detective Carolyn Whitfield, Fulton County. I'm following up on a report made this morning. A pause. Are you aware that your mother contacted our non-emergency line to report a, quote, theft of services related to account cancellations? For a moment, I just stood at the hotel window, looking out at the parking lot. I'm sorry, what? I want to be clear, Detective Whitfield said, and her voice was the carefully neutral tone of someone who has clearly already reviewed the situation and formed a working opinion, that I am calling as a courtesy. After reviewing the nature of the complaint and the account structures involved, all accounts in your name, all payments from your finances, I'm not treating this as a viable case. Everything appears to be within your legal rights as the account holder. My mother hit me, I said. Yesterday, Christmas Day, in front of 4 family members. A short pause. Do you want to file a report for that? I hadn't thought about it until that moment. Not seriously. The instinct to protect family, even family that has failed you, is a deeply irrational and persistent thing. Yes, I said, after 5 seconds. I think I I do? Detective Whitfield, 17 years with Fulton County, she'd mentioned in passing. The way people with long careers mention it to establish baseline credibility took my statement over the phone. She explained that simple battery in Georgia is a misdemeanor, that with 4 witnesses present, there would be a strong factual record, and that she would open a report. Whether it went further would depend on whether I wanted to pursue it. For now, she said, the report exists. That matters. Thank you, detective. Take care of yourself, she said, and Merry Christmas. I actually laughed at that, just a small one. Yeah, I said. You too. My mother called 47 times between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on December 26th. My father called 22 times. My sister texted me 31 messages that I documented by screenshot in a folder labeled, because I have a sense of humor even in crises, evidence. The text progressed through identifiable stages. Stage 1, confusion. What happened to the phone plan? My Netflix isn't working? Stage 2, assumption of error. Marcus, I think something went wrong with your accounts. Can you call us? Stage 3, impatience. Why aren't you answering? This is ridiculous. Stage 4, negotiation. Look, whatever happened yesterday, we can talk about it. Just fix the accounts. Stage 5, my mother's voice entering Brianna's texts, which I know because Brianna types in lowercase, and suddenly the messages became formally capitalized. Marcus Raymond Carter, you will call this house right now. This is your family, and you are behaving like a child. Stage 6, threats that revealed exactly how much they understood about their own situation. We cannot drive anywhere without insurance. Your father has a doctor's appointment Thursday. If something happens, it will be your fault. Stage 7, Brianna going back to her own voice. Okay, but like genuinely, what is happening? Are you okay? That last one I almost answered. Not because I forgave her, she had unwrapped $6,000 worth of gifts while I sat with nothing, and she hadn't said a word, but because it was at least human. The first text from anyone that asked about me rather than the accounts. I didn't respond, but I noticed it. On December 29th, I met with a civil attorney named Jordan Ashby, whose office was on the 4th floor of a building in Midtown, and who had a reputation, according to 3 different online reviews I'd read, for being excellent at family-adjacent financial disputes. I came prepared. I brought printed account statements going back 36 months, screenshots of every text and email, a copy of the police report Detective Whitfield had filed, documentation of every payment I'd made on behalf of family members, organized by category and date in a spreadsheet I'd built Christmas morning in the hotel, because that is apparently how I process emotional distress. Jordan Ashby was 41 years old, had been practicing civil law for 14 years, and had the particular quality of good lawyers who have heard everything. He showed no visible reaction to anything I said, only took notes and occasionally asked clarifying questions. The unauthorized credit card charges are interesting, he said, reviewing the December statement. You added your mother as an authorized user for emergency use. There's potentially an argument for misuse of authorization there, particularly given the amount. $4,847, I said. For a handbag. For a handbag. He wrote something down. And the police report. You have the case number? I slid it across the desk. He looked at it for a moment. This is a stronger position than most people come in with, he said. Most people have emotional recollections. You have a paper trail. I'm a developer, I said. I document things. He almost smiled. That's going to be useful. We spent 2 hours going through options. Recovering the unauthorized credit card charges was viable. The card issuer, the charges, and the clear deviation from stated purpose were all documented. The assault report was on file. The lease situation, he agreed with Patricia Osibonsu, was navigable given Derek's income and the landlord's cooperation. What do you want the outcome to be? He asked. I thought about it. Not the satisfaction answer. Not the revenge answer. The real answer. I want to be free of it, I said. All of it. The financial entanglement, the obligation. I want to rebuild my accounts, my savings, and my peace of mind. And I want them to understand clearly and permanently that what they did had real consequences. He nodded. That's achievable. The landlord, a property management company called Grayline Residential, processed Derek's solo lease application within 8 business days. On January 9th, I received a formal letter addressed to me, countersigned by Derek Okafor and notarized, releasing me from the lease as co-signer effective upon Derek's successful qualification, which had been confirmed. I read it 3 times. Then I scanned it and saved it in the folder labeled Evidence, which I immediately renamed Resolved. The credit card dispute took slightly longer. I had submitted a formal written complaint to the card issuer on January 3rd with documentation, account history, and a letter from Jordan Ashby. On January 22nd, I received a response. The charges flagged as misuse of an authorized user account, specifically the $4,847 December charge, would be investigated. Within 10 days, the issuer had reviewed the complaint and issued a provisional credit pending final review, on the basis that the charges were inconsistent with the stated emergency purpose of the authorized user arrangement and that I had withdrawn authorization before the billing cycle closed. I was not guaranteed to win the full amount, but I was in the fight. My father texted me on January 15th, not urgently, not demanding. Just a single, oddly simple text. Son, I'd like to meet for lunch if you're willing. just us. No agenda. I sat with it for a full day. My therapist, whose name is Dr. Andrea Mensa, and who I had started seeing in early January after recognizing that I had spent approximately 3 years in a financial and emotional pattern that would, in a clinical context, be called a cycle of enabling with resentment suppression, told me that deciding whether to engage was entirely up to me and that there was no correct answer. "What does your gut say?" she asked. "My gut says go," I said. "My gut also says go wearing armor. Both things can be true," she said. I met my father at a diner near his house on January 18th, a Wednesday, at 12:30 p.m. He was already there when I arrived. He looked tired. Not the theatrical kind of tired meant to generate sympathy, just genuinely, quietly tired. Older than I remembered, which is what happens when you look at someone clearly for the first time in years. He did not make excuses for my mother. He said, "I should have said something when it happened. I know I should have." He said, "I didn't know about all of it. The credit card. I didn't know." He said, "That doesn't make me innocent." He said 3 things in a row without asking for forgiveness, without pivoting to how hard things were for them, without listing his own grievances. He just said the true things. I ate my food. I listened. "I'm not ready to have a relationship that looks like the one we had," I said. "I'm not closing a door, but I'm not opening the old one either." He nodded. He paid for lunch. He left before I did. I sat in the diner for a while after he left, with a cup of coffee going cold in front of me, and I thought about how strange it is, how quietly devastating, to love people and also see them clearly, to hold both things at once, the love that is real and the harm that is also real, without letting either one erase the other. The credit card dispute was resolved in full on February 7th. The provisional credit became permanent. I received a formal notification from the card issuer. Misuse of authorized user status confirmed. 4,047 credited to my account. I transferred that amount to my savings. Then I added to it 3 years of phone plan payments I'd been informally totaling for my own clarity. The streaming subscriptions, the car insurance differential, the golf app. By my own careful conservative accounting, I had spent somewhere in the range of $23,000 to $28,000 on my family over 3 years. Much of it money I had not tracked because I hadn't wanted to see what it added up to. I looked at that number for a while. Then I closed the spreadsheet, not because it didn't matter, because it mattered too much to keep staring at. My sister texted me in late February, not through our mother. Her own phone, her own words. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I also know I should have said something that night and I didn't. I don't have a good excuse for that. I was a coward, and I was also a person who benefited from what you were doing for us and didn't want to look at it directly. I'm sorry. I know that's probably not enough. I read it twice. I didn't respond immediately. I took 3 days. Then I wrote back, 'It's a start. Give me time.' She replied with one word, 'Okay.' That was enough for now. It is April, 4 months since Christmas. I have a new credit card with a $0 authorized user policy I have written into a personal rule I intend to keep for the rest of my financial life. My savings are building again, steadily. My apartment, my actual apartment, the one with my name only on the lease, is quiet in the evenings, in a way I've started to appreciate instead of just tolerating. I see Dr. Mensa every other Thursday. We talk about the difference between loyalty and submission, about why I confused financial generosity with emotional safety, about what it feels like to rebuild boundaries in relationships where you were never taught they were allowed. The police report sits in a folder. I have not pursued it further. I have not closed it either. That remains in my hands, and I'm comfortable letting it stay there for now. My mother has not reached out directly since December. Not once. I find I don't know what to do with that. Some days it feels like relief. Some days it feels like grief. Dr. Mensa says that both are accurate, and neither cancels out the other, and that this is the specific texture of the kind of loss you don't see coming because you didn't know what you had was already a kind of loss. Here is what I know now that I did not know 4 months ago. You can love people and still hold them accountable. You can grieve a relationship and still refuse to fund its continuation. You can sit in a hotel room on Christmas night, eating a club sandwich, watching a movie alone, and feel, not happy exactly, but something structurally close to it. Something that might be, under the right conditions and with enough time, the beginning of peace. I think about that driveway a lot. The cold air, the Christmas lights buzzing down the block. Me in the driver's seat with my phone in my lap, making cancellations with the calm efficiency of someone who has finally decided that what they've been doing is not generosity. It was something else. Something I had been calling love because I didn't have a better word for it. I have a better word now. It was fear. Fear of being the one who stopped. Fear of being the one who said, "This is not okay." Fear of the silence that would follow. The exact silence that followed me out the front door on December 25th and followed me all the way to the 4th floor of a Marriott where, for the first time in 3 years, the only name on the room was mine. I don't know what happens next with my family. I'm not sure anyone does. But I know this. I slept better that night than I had in years, and nobody was more surprised by that than me.